Few people in history have descended into hell and came back. Jesus died on the cross for our sins, and I read the entirety of Domestic Girlfriend. If you recognize that name, then you either just shuddered or exclaimed, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. And for the uninitiated, let me explain. Domestic Girlfriend opens with the main character, Natsuo, losing his virginity to another girl named Rui. And this creates a bit of a conflict within himself because there weren't any feelings attached. It was just a bit of a hookup. He only met Rui that night. And it's something he's been wanting to do, and he did think Rui was cute, but at the same time, he really wanted to save himself for the girl he truly has a crush on, Hina, who is also one of his teachers. Now, Natsuo's not even supposed to really even have a chance with his teacher, but circumstances get a little wacky when Natsuo's dad decides to remarry. And it just so happens that the new wife also has 2 daughters from her previous marriage. And now Natsuo is step-siblings with both Rui and Hina. Yep, Natsuo is now stepbrother to the girl he just had sex with, and the teacher he has a crush on. I guess I should disclose the ages of everyone in case you have the wrong picture in your head. So Natsuo's in high school, like later high school. Rui is the same age, and Hina is a teacher, but she's like college age, right? So she's still a pretty young teacher, but she is a little older. But yeah, this is one of those, ooh, stepbrother, don't do that kind of stories. It explores themes of family and sexual love, 2 things that probably shouldn't be in the same sentence, but it goes there anyway, and it's not a matter of should or shouldn't, it's a matter of which of his stepsisters is Natsuo gonna end up with. I guess I'll start with what I liked about it. Overall, it is surprisingly well written. The main cast of characters, for the most part, is very likable. Natsuo himself does his best to be there and help others while navigating a minefield of jealousy and a plethora of other emotions. Hina is adorable and tends to get herself into some bad situations, but in the end always tries to do the right thing. And Rui, I think, goes through the most character development throughout the story. She starts out as this kind of quiet character living in her sister's shadow, but eventually grows into her own confidence, all because of her love for and with Natsuo. So for the most part, the writing is pretty good. There's a good amount of character growth. There are some diabolical situations throughout this story, and the story does span the course of multiple years. And not to mention, the art is great as well. You're not going to be getting any crazy or unique panels throughout the story, but it's all well done. Now, for the things I didn't really like, I'll probably be getting into a bit of spoiler territory, so in the off chance that you really wanted to experience Domestic Girlfriend for yourself, then I would say click off now. Ignoring the whole stepbrother stepsister thing, I think the story takes a pretty downward turn towards the end. The writing goes in a direction you don't really expect, and I don't really think it's in a good way. Like, there's this arc where Natsuo has his own apartment and starts letting another girl stay with him, and it turns out that she's a drug runner and addict, which leads to the both of them getting into trouble with the gang that she works for, and the whole scenario was just so over the top and so different from anything else that happens in the story that it kind of took me out of it. But the biggest problem I have with the plot of Domestic Girlfriend is with its ending. Oh my god, this is gonna be insane to explain. So, Domestic Girlfriend ends with Natsuo having gotten Rui pregnant. So Natsuo and Rui finally decide to seal the deal. They get engaged with the intention to marry, and they explain the whole situation to the rest of the family, and that was kind of an awkward moment, but okay, this is fine so far. Getting some sort of resolution to this all. But then later, Hina and Rui meet up, and it turns into one of those scenarios where Rui's about to get hit by a car, and Hina comes in and saves her by pushing her out of the way at her own expense, being in the collision herself. So Hina ends up going to the hospital. She ultimately survives, but she's also stuck in a coma. And this leads to Rui calling off her engagement to Natsuo so that Natsuo can instead marry Hina, who is currently a vegetable. So it just leads to this weird circumstance where Natsuo and Rui are still co-parenting, but they're also both taking care of Hina, who's in a coma, waiting for her to wake up so that she can marry Natsuo, who is just kind of going along with the situation. And while it kind of sounds like a wholesome ending on the surface, the problem is it leaves a lot of character development that seemed like it was about to have some sort of resolution to it completely off the table. Like, one of Natsuo's main problems is that he's very indecisive about who he wants to be with. Does he want to be with Hina or does he want to be with Rui? And he keeps switching sides constantly. In the end, he doesn't make the decision for himself. Rui has to decide it for him, and he just kind of goes along with it. Meanwhile, before the crash, Hina was finally starting to make peace with the idea that she wasn't going to win over Natsuo, he was going to be with Rui, so she ends up getting scammed out of her resolution for her problem of getting into relationships that she probably shouldn't be getting into. Meanwhile, Rui, she ends up in a good career, she's happy co-parenting, but it still feels like that she lost a lot for seemingly no reason. If the author wanted to go down this road of Hina being in a coma, then that's fine, but I still think Natsuo and Rui still should have ended up together. Instead of calling off the marriage entirely, Rui probably should have just said, hey, I just want to wait to get married until Hina comes out of this coma. She sacrificed a lot for our relationship, and I just want her to be able to experience it with us. In the end, show that there's no hard feelings between the characters, and ultimately show that they can all still have a positive relationship together, even if one of the stepsisters didn't get the romantic ending that she wanted. And it pains me to say this because I was Team Hina all the way through. Look, Hina and Rui, they're both great characters and all, but look, let's just say that in Persona 5, I picked Kawakami as the romance option. We'll just leave it at that. Anyway, Domestic Girlfriend was a surprisingly pretty good manga. Definitely not something I'm going to go around recommending to everyone, but it's also not as bad as I expected. I'm at the point where if I keep going, I'm just going to be rambling, and not to mention, I feel more and more awkward talking about this by the minute, so I'm going to end that there. See you guys later. Bye-bye.